The brass key slid into the lock, but it wouldn't turn. I wiggled it. I pushed harder. I held it up against the porch light to make sure I had grabbed the right one, and yes, it was the Yale I had carried for 16 years, the one my mother pressed into my hand the week she died and said, "Linda, this house is yours, make sure nobody ever takes it from you." I stood on my own front porch in the bug-bitten quiet of a Tuesday evening in late September, suitcase still hooked over my shoulder, smelling faintly of the institutional soap they made us use at the treatment center, and I stared at my own front door like I had wandered onto the wrong street. Let me catch you up. My name is Linda Boudreau. I am 54, and I had just been released 47 days early from a 60-day inpatient alcohol program outside Phoenix, because Blue Cross decided my stay was no longer medically necessary. I did not ask to come home early. I had 47 days clean and sober, and the counselor in my group had just started letting me lead the Wednesday night meeting. And for the first time in 10 years, the inside of my head was not on fire. Then the facility faxed my insurance file at 9 in the morning and kicked me out at 9:01 with a paper grocery bag of my belongings, $60 in discharge cash, and a list of outpatient therapists I had never heard of in a city I had never lived in. So I flew home, 4 hours from Phoenix to Atlanta, lift from the airport, my own porch at 6:40 in the evening. I want to tell you about my children because it matters. Marcus, my oldest, is 32, works in commercial real estate, just got engaged to a woman named Teresa who posts pictures of her food with captions in lowercase letters, and who complains constantly about her HOA. Destiny, my youngest, is 28, fresh out of a divorce, has a 3-year-old daughter named Riley who calls me Ma, and who is the only human on this planet that makes my chest feel like a warm jar of honey. I love them. I would have walked into a burning building with nothing on for either one of them. And that is the part that makes what follows almost impossible to type. There is a manila envelope I keep in the glove box of my old Buick. It is taped shut. The postmark on the outside is dated April 9, 2019. It is addressed to me in my own handwriting because I mailed it to myself. Certified mail, return receipt requested. $22 and some odd cents of postage, because my friend Jolene Shaver, who is a notary public and who passed in 2021 from ovarian cancer, told me once over coffee that if I ever needed to prove I had a piece of paper on a particular day, mailing it to myself in a sealed envelope was a cheap and ugly but legally accepted way to do it. I thought she was being dramatic. I did it anyway. I have carried that envelope in my glove box for 6 years. I have never opened it. I forgot what is inside it. I am going to come back to that envelope. I went to rehab because my daughter Destiny called my sister Tanya one night in February and said, "Mom is drinking a bottle of wine a night and she forgot to pick up Riley from daycare and the teacher had to call me." Tanya called the next morning and said, "Linda Ray, you have 2 choices. You go somewhere for 60 days or you do not get to be alone with your granddaughter anymore." I picked up the phone. I called Sunrise Recovery in Scottsdale. They took my insurance. I packed a bag. I signed papers saying I was entering voluntarily and granting Tanya a limited power of attorney for medical decisions and mail only. I want you to understand what that document said. It said Tanya could make medical decisions for me if I was unconscious. It said she could pick up my mail. It did not say she could sell my house. It did not say she could hand my keys to my children. It did not say anybody could change my locks. I read it 3 times before I signed it. I remember because I was sober when I read it, which was rare enough to feel like a small miracle. Rehab was 47 days of foam mattresses, and learning how to say the word vulnerability without laughing. It was the first time I had been away from my own house for more than a weekend since I moved in 22 years ago with a husband who is now my ex-husband and who has not sent a child support check since 2014. I called my kids every Sunday at 6 p.m. because that was the only time the facility let us use the phones. Marcus picked up on the second ring. Destiny missed the first call and texted back within 5 minutes. We talked about small things, Riley's vocabulary, Teresa's new camera lens. We did not talk about money. We did not talk about the house. I thought that was because there was nothing to say. I now understand it was because there was everything to say and they did not want me to know. Let me back up further because the story starts before rehab. 3 years ago, I had a small stroke. They called it a TIA. I spent 4 days at Emory and went home with a walker and a fear of falling down my own stairs. During that hospital stay, my brother-in-law Daryl, who is a real estate attorney in Macon, came over and sat at my kitchen table and said, "Linda, you do not have a will. The one you wrote on the back of a church bulletin in 2009 is not a will." So I paid him $900 and he drew me up a proper will, a living trust, a transfer on death deed for the house, a healthcare proxy, and a durable power of attorney naming Tanya as my agent. The transfer on death deed says in plain English that when I die the house goes to Marcus and Destiny, equally no strings attached. I signed it. Daryl filed it with the Cobb County Recorder's office. I did not think about it again. Then came February of this year, the week before rehab. Tanya came over and said Marcus was on the phone with Destiny yesterday and he is upset because you told him his dad could come to Riley's birthday party. I never told him that. I did not even know my ex-husband was in town. So I called Marcus and he said, Mom, you told Teresa at Christmas. I did not say that either. After about 40 minutes of this, Marcus said something calm and strange. He said, Mom, I think when you drink you get confused and you say things you do not remember. I want you to know I am not mad. I just want you to get help. So I went and got help. I went to Phoenix. I went willingly. That is what my kids had on me. Not a crime, not a moral failing that broke a bone, just a slow, gentle pattern over 20 years of a mother who drank too much and said things she did not remember and forgot to pick up her granddaughter once. That is what got weaponized. I am going to say that again because I want you to hear it the way I hear it now. My years of struggling with a disease were turned into a tool. Day 47, I get the facts. I fly home. I land at Hartsfield-Jackson at Fort Wentworth. I take a lift. I get to my house at 6:40. The porch light is on. The mailbox is full. There is a new welcome mat that says blessed in cursive. I find that weird because I never owned a blessed welcome mat. Lily of the Valley is still planted by the walk. My wind chimes are missing. I slide my key in. It will not go. The deadbolt has been replaced. There is a shiny new Schlage keypad lock where my brass Yale used to be, with a faint sticky grease mark above the keypad where somebody peeled off the instruction sticker. I knocked. 90 seconds. Marcus opened the door. He was wearing a shirt I bought him for his 30th birthday. He was holding a glass of red wine. He looked at me like I was a stranger. Linda, he said. He called me Linda, not Mom, Linda. Marcus, move, I am coming in. Mom, you cannot just come in. Marcus, I have lived in this house for 22 years, I am coming in. Mom, this is not your house anymore. Then Destiny came down the stairs behind him, laundry basket on her hip, a fleece pullover on her body that I thought I had left in my closet, which I had because there it was in my house in front of my stairs. Riley was behind her. Riley saw me and squealed and reached out her hands. Destiny pulled her back. That is the moment my knees gave out and I sat down on the porch step of my own front door. I said, somebody explain this to me right now in plain English before I have to call the police. Marcus said calm, the way a commercial real estate guy talks when he is about to make a hostile offer. Mom, the mortgage was 4 months behind, you never told us. We took out a home equity line of credit in your name to bring it current. We changed the locks because we were worried about squatters. We filed a petition in Cobb County Probate Court to be appointed your temporary guardians. Teresa's cousin, who is a nurse practitioner, wrote 2 affidavits saying that based on your history you are not capable of managing your own affairs. We are not trying to hurt you, we are trying to protect you. I want to stay on that moment for one more second because I think it is the most important moment in the whole story. My son on my porch telling me I could not come into my own house was holding a glass of red wine. He was drinking on my porch while he was telling me I was not allowed to come inside because he had decided I could not be trusted. He did not notice the irony. He did not notice the irony because he was not trying to be cruel. He was trying to be right. I want you to remember that the people who betray you are very often not evil, they are just certain. I tried to be calm, I am telling you I tried. I got a sponsor and I read the big book and I prayed to a God I am not even sure I believe in. So I said, Marcus, I am going to call the police now because I am the legal owner of this house. He said, okay Mom, but when the police get here they are going to say this is a civil matter. He said it like he had rehearsed it. I think he had rehearsed it. I think Teresa helped him rehearse it. The cops came, 2 of them in a gray Dodge Charger, a man and a woman. The man had a name tag that said Howell. He asked for my ID. He asked for proof of residence. I had my Georgia driver's license listing my address. He asked Marcus for proof. Marcus went inside and came back with a folder 2 inches thick and laid it on the porch railing. Cobb County property record showing a pending transfer of ownership petition. A temporary restraining order motion that had not yet been granted. A letter from an attorney in Marietta. Howell looked at the folder for 30 seconds, then looked at me, then looked at Marcus, then said, Ma'am, this looks like a civil matter. I cannot let you in tonight. I would recommend a family member's place and an attorney in the morning. I said, Officer, I have the deed in my name. He said, "Ma'am, the county records will sort it out. For tonight, this is a civil matter." He said civil matter 3 times. I counted because my sponsor told me counting things keeps me from screaming in public. I went to Tanya's house. She lives 45 minutes south in Peachtree City, in a townhouse with a tiny fenced yard and a teacup poodle named Beans. She let me in without asking a single question. I sat at her kitchen table. I had been back in the world for 10 hours and had not eaten anything except a bag of pretzels on the airplane. Tanya put a plate of leftover meatloaf in front of me and asked if I had understood any of what Marcus said about a home equity line of credit. I said, "Tanya, I did not consent to one." She said, "Linda, when was the last time you logged into the Truist app?" I said, "August maybe." She said, "Honey, it is May." I did not sleep that night. I sat in Tanya's guest room and read a 4-page letter Marcus had slipped under the Lyft driver's door before I pulled away. Marcus is the kind of man who color codes his calendar. This was a 4-page single-spaced letter that began, "Dear Mom, this comes from a place of love," and it outlined every concern he had about my ability to live alone, every incident he could remember in the last 10 years that supported his concern, and a detailed proposal. Sell the house. Split the equity 3 ways between Marcus, Destiny, and me. Place me in a 1-bedroom apartment in a senior living community in Kennesaw called The Willows at $3,800 a month. Place the rest of my money into a managed trust with Destiny as trustee. He had highlighted the parts that mattered in yellow. He had printed out the Willows website in color. He had a section called "Why This Is the Loving Choice." He had a section called "Frequently Asked Questions You Will Probably Ask." I read it twice, then I folded it up and put it under the sleeping bag. The next morning I called a lawyer. Not Daryl, because he is Marcus's uncle by marriage. I called Rachel Immerman, who does elder law and family litigation in Smyrna. Her receptionist said the initial consultation was $250, paid up front, no refunds. I paid it over the phone with my debit card. I had $4,118 left in my checking account. The consultation was Wednesday at 10 a.m. On Wednesday, I drove to Rachel's office in Tanya's car because my Buick was parked at my locked house. I sat in her waiting room with 2 other women my age and 1 man who looked about 80. Rachel came out and said, "Ms. Boudreau, before we start, do you feel safe going back to your own house today?" I said, "I do not." She nodded like she had heard that sentence 1,000 times. She said, "Okay, we are going to fix that." I told her everything. She stopped me at the envelope. "What is in the envelope?" she said. "I do not remember," I said. "I think it is a copy of the deed and a notarized letter." "Why did you mail it to yourself?" "Because my dead friend Jolene told me to." She wrote something on a yellow legal pad. "We are going to need that envelope today. It's in my glove box in my car in front of my house. Then we are going to need the car today." She called a man she called her court guy. Mr. Hahn, former Marine, khakis, a polo shirt with his company logo, and the kind of shoulders a person gets from pull-ups in a motel parking lot. Mr. Hahn drove me to my house in his truck. My Buick was there. Destiny's Honda Civic was in front of it. Marcus's silver F-150 was on the street. He said, "Do you have a key to the Buick?" I said yes. He said, "Get the envelope, do not open it, and come back to the truck." I went. I felt my way to the glove box. The envelope was exactly where I had left it, tape yellowed with age, certified mail sticker still attached. I ran back to the truck. We drove back to Rachel's office. She opened the envelope in front of me and her paralegal, Kareem, who kept apologizing for the air conditioning. Inside was a copy of the original warranty deed for my house, recorded at the Cobb County Recorder's office in 2002 when I bought the place from a man named Mr. Habersham for $184,000. My name, Linda Ray Boudreau, sole grantee, and a second piece of paper. A notarized letter from me to my children, dated April 8, 2019, signed in front of Jolene Shaver, Notary Public, State of Georgia, Commission number 422911187, with Jolene's raised seal still attached. The letter said, and I am reading it for the first time in 6 years, so please forgive me for shaking, to Marcus Boudreau and Destiny Boudreau. If you are reading this, something has gone wrong. This letter is to confirm that the house at 4611 Splitwood Lane in Marietta, Georgia 30062 belongs outright to me, Linda Ray Boudreau. It is not collateral for any loan I have not personally approved. If anyone tells you that I have signed paperwork giving up ownership, that paperwork is forged, I love you both. Do not let anyone tell you that you are owed this house. You are not owed this house. You are owed my presence. Mom, Jolene had signed it. Jolene had stamped it. Jolene was 3 years from being dead when she stamped it. Rachel read it twice. She set it down. She said, "Ms. Boudreau, the notarized letter alone is not enough to invalidate everything Marcus has filed. but the combination of the sealed postmark from 2019, the receipt, and the notarized signature is going to make a Cobb County probate judge very reluctant to grant a temporary guardianship over an adult who walked in with a notarized document in her own handwriting, mailed through the United States Postal Service under her own name, declaring her intent to remain the sole owner of her own home. She said, "I am filing a police report this afternoon." She said, "Changing the locks on a home you do not legally own while the legal owner is in a rehab facility the children themselves helped identify is a crime that has a name in Georgia." She said, "The practical effect is that Marcus and Destiny just gave me the ammunition to file criminal trespass complaints, civil theft by conversion claims on the equity line, and a petition for emergency injunctive relief to get you back in your house by Friday." She said, "This is going to be loud, expensive, 6 to 9 months, and they are going to hate you for it." I said, "Rachel, I cannot afford 6 to 9 months." She said, "Ms. Boudreau, you cannot afford not to. If you sign their papers today, you will be dead in 5 years. That is not a threat, that is a statistic." Friday came, Rachel filed a motion. Mr. Hahn served Marcus at his office at lunchtime. Destiny was served at her apartment complex leasing office. I did not see either one that day. I stayed at Tanya's. Beans slept on my feet. Tanya made me scrambled eggs. I drank 3 cups of coffee and did not add whiskey to any of them. 47 days sober. The weekend would have been so easy. There was a bottle of Maker's Mark on top of Tanya's refrigerator because her husband Neil drinks it on Saturday nights. I looked at it twice. I did not touch it. I want that on the record, I held. Monday morning, court hearing in Cobb County. Judge Marion Bertelli. Small courtroom, wood paneling, an American flag from the Bush administration still in the corner. Rachel sat on my left. Marcus and Destiny sat across the aisle with a man in a charcoal suit named Gordon Phelps, who I later learned charges $475 an hour. Marcus was wearing the same shirt from the porch. Riley was not there because Tanya had taken her to the aquarium. I was so grateful that Riley was not in that room that I almost cried. Marcus took the stand first. He was organized. He had printed out his Gmail inbox from 2020 through 2025 and tabbed the messages where I had said things I did not remember saying. When Rachel cross-examined him, she did not raise her voice. She said, "Mr. Boudreau, when did you first learn about the home equity line of credit your mother allegedly took out?" He said, "I do not recall the date." She said, "Do you recall that the email you sent to yourself on March 31st explaining the HELOC application contains a phrase you forgot to redact, which is, and I quote, 'I filled this out for her while she was passed out on the couch.'" Marcus did not answer. He looked at Gordon Phelps. Phelps stood up and said, "Your Honor, this is improper." The judge said, "Counselor, your client's own email is in evidence. He can answer the question." Marcus said, "I do not recall that phrase." Rachel pulled out a printed copy and handed it to the judge. The judge read it. She looked at Marcus over her reading glasses for what felt like a full minute. She said, "Mr. Boudreau, step down." Destiny did not take the stand. Phelps advised her not to. There is no version of Destiny's testimony that helps Marcus. Rachel called me. I sat in the witness box and tried not to cry in front of my own children. I told the judge about the envelope. I told her about Jolene. I told her about the certified mail receipt. I told her that I was the sole legal owner of my house and that no one had my consent to change my locks or borrow against my equity. I told her I had been in treatment for 47 days because I wanted to be well enough to be alone with my granddaughter, and that I had gotten out early because of insurance, and that when I got home my key did not fit my own lock. Judge Bertelli asked me one question. She said, "Ms. Boudreau, if I restore possession of the home to you today, can you live in it safely?" I said, "Your Honor, I have a deadbolt that does not have my key in it. I'm going to have a locksmith come tomorrow and replace every lock in the house and change my garage code and put cameras on the porch and install them myself if I have to." She almost smiled. She said, "The court appreciates direct answers." She said, "The petition for temporary guardianship is denied." She said, "The TRO preventing Ms. Boudreau from accessing her own home is dissolved." She said, "Mr. Phelps, your clients may wish to consider whether their conduct over the last 60 days exposes them to criminal liability under Georgia statutes 16712 and 16812, which I am not going to read into the record, but which my clerk will provide copies of to the district attorney's office by close of business today." She banged the gavel. We were adjourned. I won. The word feels too small. The word won is what people say about a card game. I did not win. I survived a thing my own children did to me in a building with my name on the deed because a dead woman told me to mail myself a letter in 2019. Jolene was a practical woman. She worked at a title company for 31 years. She had probably seen 36 cases just like mine. She was not a prophet. She was just a woman who had seen what greedy children do to elderly parents in Cobb County, Georgia, and she tried to warn me, and I ignored her for 6 years, and the warning saved my life. Marcus did not speak to me in the hallway. Destiny did. She came up and said, "Mom, can I please have Riley this weekend?" I said, "Destiny, you may always have Riley." I said, "She is the only reason I went to rehab in the first place." She started crying. I almost put my arms around her. I did not. I want to tell you I did, but I did not. I was too tired. I was too dry. I had been sober for 52 days. I did not have one extra tear in me. I went home. Mr. Hahn drove me. I parked in my own driveway. Rachel had a locksmith scheduled. I unlocked my own front door with a new silver quickset I had not picked out and that I am going to replace again in 6 weeks because it does not feel like mine yet. The house smelled like the lemon pledge Destiny had used to scrub the kitchen counters, and underneath that, like cedar shavings in the dresser drawers where I keep my mother's Christmas quilts, like my mother had been there all along. I stood in the kitchen. I put my paper grocery bag on the counter. I opened the fridge. A 12-pack of Diet Coke Destiny had bought me. A bag of pre-washed baby spinach with a Post-it note stuck to it that said, "For Mom, eat this, please," in her handwriting. I took out a Diet Coke. I opened it. I drank it standing up in my kitchen. I cried for the first time in 6 weeks. Not big crying, not movie crying. Quiet crying, the kind where your face just leaks and your shoulders do not move. Then I sat down, finally at my own kitchen table in my own house. The light through the window above the sink was that thin gray gold of an Atlanta late afternoon in spring. I opened my phone, 34 missed calls. Most were from Marcus. A few were from Teresa. One was from Gordon Phelps asking me to call so we could come to an understanding. I did not call anyone back. I called my sponsor, Deanne, who lives in Tucson and has 11 years sober. I said, "Deanne, I am sitting in my kitchen." I said, "They tried to take my house." I said, "I did not open the door with a knife in my hand, and I did not drink, and I did not yell at anyone in front of a judge." She said, "Linda, what did you do?" I said, "I drank a Diet Coke and I cried." She said, "That is the most spiritual thing I have heard all week." I want to tell you about the manila envelope again because I lied earlier when I said I forgot what was inside it. I did not want to say it out loud on my porch with my son holding a glass of red wine because it would have given the whole thing away. The letter inside the envelope was written at Tanya's dining room table in 2019, 4 days after Tanya's husband Neil had to call Adult Protective Services on his own mother because his sister had cleaned out their mother's bank account while she was in a nursing home. I was sitting at Tanya's table when she got the call that her mother-in-law had died. I watched her fold into a chair. I watched Neil fold into the chair across from her. I watched a family that had been polite to each other for 40 years collapse into strangers because of a checkbook. I went home that night. I sat at my own kitchen table. I wrote the letter. I called Jolene. Jolene came on a Tuesday with her seal in her purse and notarized it in front of me, and I drove to the post office the next morning and I mailed it to myself, and I put it in the glove box and forgot about it on purpose, because Jolene told me that was the safest place to put something you hoped you would never need. Turns out she was right. Here are the numbers, because the numbers are the part nobody wants to talk about and the part that probably got my children into this in the first place. I bought the house in 2002 for $184,000, $12% down, 2 refinances. As of March, the unpaid principal on my first mortgage was $98,400. According to the Cobb County tax assessor, the market value of the home is roughly $415,000. That means I own about $316,000 of equity in a house I have lived in for 22 years, that I painted by myself twice, that I retiled the bathroom with my own hands after YouTube taught me how, that I have hosted every Thanksgiving and Easter and July 4th barbecue my family has ever had. That $316,000 is the number Marcus and Destiny looked at on a Zillow estimate on their phone some night in February while I was sitting on a foam mattress in Phoenix learning the difference between a slip and a relapse. That is what they wanted, not me, not my kitchen table, not the wind chimes, the number. I am writing this from my own kitchen. The new locks are silver. The manila envelope is still in the glove box of my Buick, except now I have also put a second copy in my safe deposit box at the credit union on Roswell Road, because Jolene would have wanted me to. The Diet Coke is gone. The baby spinach is half gone. Riley came over Sunday. She brought me a drawing of a unicorn that is mostly yellow and that I have put on the refrigerator with a magnet shaped like the state of Georgia. Marcus has not been to the house. Teresa sends a text every few days that begins with, "Hey Linda, just wanted to see how you're doing," and contains nothing else. Destiny has been over twice, both times with Riley, both times walking on eggshells around each other like we are still figuring out where the furniture is in our own relationship. She has not apologized. She may never apologize. I do not know yet if I need her to. I am 54. I have 60 days sober today. I have my house. I have a lawyer I cannot afford but who is willing to take payments. I have a granddaughter who's going to start kindergarten in the fall, who I am going to walk to the bus stop in the mornings, who's going to draw me another unicorn. I do not know what is going to happen with Marcus. I do not know if the district attorney is going to file charges against my own children for trying to take my house out from under me. I do not know if Marcus and I will ever have a Thanksgiving again. I do not know if destiny will look me in the eye next Christmas, but I know where my deed is. I know where my house is. I know where my mother is buried, and I know that she would not have forgiven me if I had signed those papers and let my children turn the house she left me into a senior living apartment in Kennesaw with $3,800 monthly fees and a cafeteria that serves Salisbury steak on Wednesdays. The judge told me to think about whether my conduct exposes my children to criminal liability. I have thought about it. I think about it every morning at 5:40 when I wake up and walk to the kitchen and drink a glass of water and stand at the window and look at my own driveway and make sure my own car is still parked in it. I think about it when Riley asks me why Uncle Marcus doesn't come over anymore. I think about it when Teresa sends another text with nothing in it. Here is what I keep coming back to. The day before I went to rehab, my son Marcus called me on a Tuesday and told me that if I did not get help, he would not be able to keep pretending everything was fine. I believed him. I love him. I am 63% certain that he believes he did what he did because he loves me, and that is the part that scares me most. Because if love is the reason, then what we are looking at is a story about what love is allowed to do when it decides the person it loves is no longer capable of being trusted. I do not have an answer. I have 60 days sober and a notebook full of meeting chips and a refrigerator covered in unicorn drawings, and I do not have an answer to that question. So here is the question I want to leave you with, and I want you to sit with it before you scroll. If your own child decided, while you were getting help for the first time in your life, that they had the right to lock you out of your own home, sign your name to loans you did not approve, file paperwork in a courtroom to be declared your guardian, and split your equity 3 ways so they could move into your bedroom and take your grandchild to school in a better zip code, and if the only thing that stopped them was a letter you had forgotten you had written in your own handwriting 6 years earlier, sealed in a manila envelope in your glove box, signed by a dead woman who was not a prophet but who had seen this movie before, was that child protecting you or was that child taking you? And if your honest answer is both, if you can hold both truths in your hand at the same time, the love and the taking, the worry and the greed, the man who held a glass of wine on your porch because he forgot what he was about to do to you, tell me in the comments which one you think should be allowed to win.